Shall I start, Sridhar?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. This is Jyotsna, Associate Professor in Sciences Department from VNR VJIT Institute of Engineering and Technology. Today, basically, I'm sharing a presentation which talks about teaching learning methodologies in today's education scenario. There have been a lot of reforms which are taking place in the education scenario in order to address the 21st century. There is a paradigm shift from the teacher-centered instruction to a learner-centric instruction. In this context, a new dimension in the education field is being done by making use of this teaching learning methodology, which is coined the term POGIL, which is an activity based, and it is being designed to empower with conceptual knowledge. This activity encourages a deep understanding of the topic and drives students towards higher order thinking skills aimed in Bloom's taxonomy. So the structure of the involves these steps. The theme, that is the main word which is being involved in teaching learning methodology, that is POGIL. The purpose talks about the objective of this methodology, this technique. Planning speaks about methods by which this particular activity learning is carried out, wherein design and implementation are also addressed. The outcomes speak about the results and the discussions, since this activity is very much implemented in our institute. And finally, I come to the closure, which talks about conclusions and the remarks which are after implementing this activity effectively, more commonly in the engineering chemistry course, which is involved for first-year students. So as I've told, the theme, that is POGIL, involves all these leaflets. First, it talks about what is the objective of this teaching learning methodology. The objective of this teaching learning methodology involves process skills, guided inquiry approach, which are in line with the learning cycle. What would be the roles of the student? What would be the roles of the teacher during the implementation and being involved in the activities? And finally, what will be the output after this activity is being implemented? So when I say POGIL, how do I define, or what is POGIL? It is process-oriented guided inquiry learning, which comes from two terms. One is process orientation, which involves a team-based learning or cooperative learning or a collaborative learning, which is added upon with the guided inquiry, which speaks about the learning side, the activity design through which the students are able to have the concepts. So the processes are normally met under this particular type of activity-based learning. There is teamwork which is being developed among the students. Communication will be enhanced. Problem-solving skills are attained. Critical thinking is being implemented. A lot of information processing which goes on with among the students and also among the students and the faculty. And the guided inquiry part involves the cycle, wherein the will wheel around the exploration of the concept or exploration about concept. After exploration, the main concept which is involved related to the activity is being invented by the students itself, and later on it goes to the application orientation of that particular concept. So all these things are very with the Bloom's taxonomy, which is the most known word today in order to achieve based education. What is the basic difference between the traditional way of teaching and the POGIL style of teaching? A few pictures over here will show us how the scenario of a normal classroom and a POGIL classroom in a class as well as in a lab looks like. If we see the normal classroom, The teacher is just lecturing and the student is listening. But the other pictures on the right hand side of the screen, the involvement of the students, they're all working together with a lot of concentration, exchanging information, interacting with one another, and trying to achieve the information. So there is a lot of self-learning which is happening in terms of POGIL. Along with self-learning, these are the skills, process skills are being developed among them. They love to work in teams. They're able to listen very patiently to others. Their responsibility has been enhanced. So it is not the teacher's responsibility to allow the learning to happen. It is the teachers as well as the students in the classroom, which helps them in having a clarity of the concepts. So when I say that students are involved, basically the teacher will act only as a guide. It is no more a sage on the stage, but a guide on the side. The teacher will just help in the students to get the information, but not directly tell them the answers. The major responsibility of the student to drive the students rather than letting out the answer. The students, the roles which are given to the students, there are roles in the team, because usually the team comprises of 4 members. One person will act as a manager who will manage the time for to be completed, who will manage all the team members to work, and finally bring out the output of that particular activity. And then when everybody is to enter into the activity, there is definitely a person required to record the informations and the discussions which happen during the team-based activity. So the person, one of the team member, plays the role of the recorder, who records all the important points which were discussed during their activities. Then we have the reporter or the spokesperson. This person is the main person of the group, because anytime the group is being questioned, it is not all the members who will speak, but only the reporter or the spokesperson or the presenter who's going to present all their discussions, their reports to the group. And finally, we have another person in the group who will basically look into the group dynamics. A person who is going to look into how the team members are working together. Is there any problem during this process of working in attaining the activity results? And finally, a report prepared by the reflector can be passed on to the teacher, that is the facilitator, so that if any problem is there in the group, it can be rectified by the time the next activity is being done. So the role of a teacher is only go around, try to give the hints if asked, try to show the way or the path for the students to learn, watch and listen to their queries, their discussions, and just guide them so that they are the ones who are going to elaborate and finally understand the concept behind the activity. How does a POGIL pedagogy work? How are we supposed to learn in a class when we have all these roles? So the POGIL pedagogy involves these steps. First and foremost is the team formation. The team can be given as a chance for the teacher to represent, or it can be done in terms of the collective roll numbers, or depending upon the orientation of the class or the environment of the class, in which you can divide people into categories of 4. It's formed a short lecture in the sense over here we are not going to let out the information related to the activity, but a brief overview or outline of the activity can be given in terms of a lecture or a video, so that it will drive in the students to go from lower order thinking skills to higher order thinking skills. The worksheet is framed in such a way that the students are able to explore, invent the concept, try the concept, and finally learn the concept. And then the facilitation part is done by the teacher. Framework of the POGIL pedagogy So team formation, a short lecture or a video or a picture which can be depicted. The worksheet is given to the students and facilitation is done by the teacher. And this is how the activity works in a class. Then how do I design an activity? The work of POGIL activities usually enhance the student interest towards the activity are framed in this particular manner. We have a follow-up. The first few questions are questions which can be either obtained from a model or picture or some representations where all the students are brought into the comfort zone. These direct questions help them in terms of enhancing their confidence and work with the team during the process of the activity. And the second setup of the questions in the activity, the follow-up questions after the direct questions are questions, wherein there is some amount of discussions which would happen, some analysis, some interpretations have to be happen. Finally, the whole team tries to come to an answer which is related to that particular question. And finally, the wind-up activity will be with the divergent questions, which lead them to develop into research, wherein, because the divergent questions are open-ended questions, which will help the students to trigger their mind and shift from the lower order thinking skills to the higher thinking skills. So this is the framework of design the POGIL activities, which will help the students to build up confidence with the team, get the information from the team, share the information in class, and finally, what is the application orientation of that particular activity or that particular concept is being addressed and then being discussed or given in the class as a final report. These were some of the activities which were designed because POGIL was seen to be done, especially in US, mostly for the higher schools, that is the schools. In the engineering domain, VNR is the first institute which has implemented almost all the domains of engineering, whether it is theory, IT, EIE, civil, mechanical, automobile, all these domains tried out their activities, and they have also worked out the activities in the class, taken the feedback, and it was a very challenging job for the teachers as well as for the students to get acclimatized with this new way of teaching learning methodology. Then going ahead with this presentation, how are we going to implement this POGIL in this curriculum, which we have a huge curriculum on the shoulder of the teachers, which has to be completed within stipulated according to the academic calendar. Implementation can be done in terms of the teacher's facility, wherein she or he can implement in the lecture, can use 2 lecture periods or implement a short activity in the lecture class, or it can be implemented in a lab where we have roughly about 3 sessions of the order of 50 minutes each. Or since these engineering domains, we do have these tutorial classes wherein we train the students. Instead of again lecturing in a tutorial class with such activities will students get motivated and allow them to learn the concepts. Then how do I do it? Do I do it daily? Do I do it weekly? Or do I do it bi-weekly? So the planning and implementation is totally dependent on the teacher and also the receiver, that is the students, and depending upon how many activities which we have in our toolkit to address our students. And finally, it is also dependent on our curriculum because we need to complete our portions as per the academic calendar. And here I would like to present, throughout I was just telling this is a very good activity or teaching learning methodology which is used or which is enhancing or empowering the students in terms of their clarity and their concept. I would also present the outcomes of in terms of results and discussions wherein we have monitored our classes, especially in chemistry course which is taught for the first year students. roughly we have about 1,000 to 1,800 students, wherein in one semester, a part of students are being addressed, another semester, another part of the students are being addressed. So we have seen when we implemented POGIL for one semester, and without implementation of POGIL also we have opted for the traditional way of learning. And when we observed the results, we have seen that we could reduce the pass percentage, because finally anything which is designed, which is being implemented, is seen in terms of numbers. So we could lessen the pass, fail percentage, wherein we had more number of students falling into the category above 90%, and then failures have been very much reduced, roughly from 6 students to 19 students to 6 students. So we were able to show it in terms of numbers, wherein only just the numbers don't speak over here. It is the concept clarity and the interest towards the subject and the students' performances which were observed in these outcomes. And there was also a survey which we have done. We have trained a lot of our faculty for this POGIL activities, both for designing as well as implementation. We also took a survey from the students so that we know where we stand in the implementation of these activities in the classrooms. So we conducted a survey for totally roughly about 900 to 1,000 students and 100 to 120 faculty. And we have seen from the survey that most of the faculty as well as the students, they prefer at least to teach the threshold concepts and the difficult concepts of a subject through the POGIL style of teaching. And we have also taken the feedback both from the students as well as from the teachers. Feedback from the students, which was taken up, is shown in this particular slide, wherein the students felt that learning is not just getting marks, but it is also involving fun. They had a lot of clarity about the concepts, and then they were trying to shift from just understanding and remembering, which they were doing so far. They were just shifting from these levels to applying, analyzing, evaluating, and slowly leading into creativity. And not only related to the subject, they could develop compatibility with their peer mates, because when they interact in a team, they are able to understand their peer mates, they are able to respect the thoughts of their peer mates. Exchange of ideas is taking place. Through this activity-based learning, the communication skills and the confidence levels of the students are also being enhanced, and that is what they have shown. They have written their feedback. And finally, this type of activity will trigger the minds of the student, because presently just studying and leaving is not enough. We need to become, or we need to train our students into entrepreneurs and innovators. So that inculcates, this activity-based learning inculcates research culture into them, and which also teaches the one which is most important in life, that is time management. And we took the feedback from the teachers during the designing and the implementation of the activities. When we really look far at this particular way of teaching learning methodology, normally as teachers, what do we think is, okay, very good, I give the activity to students and I can relax in a class. But that's not the scenario. The teacher is really at trouble in the class, because even though she answers, she's supposed to guide the students towards the answers. So she's supposed to know information related to the questions which are posed in activities. So there is really a challenge in designing the activities given to the students. And design automatically is also driving the students just towards creativity. So it is not just the students who are going towards creativity, even the teachers are trying to aim at creativity. And this type of activity-based learning is going to address the different learning styles, since we have a number of learners in our class, the audio, the video, the kinesthetic, and the digital natives who are very much into technology today. and just information with just one scroll on their smartphones. And there's a very different role of the teacher. It is not the teacher continuously lecturing. It is only the teacher acting as a guide or a facilitator and helping the students, driving them towards the concept clarity. And the teacher is definitely having this activity-based worksheet as a tool to create a lot of curiosity and interest in the students, because a continuous mode of lecturing will put our students to sleep or will also make them very restless in the class. And this type of team-based learning or activity-based learning is really working wonders with the kinesthetic learners who learn by doing. Finally, I come to the conclusions after implementation of these activities since 2012 till date in our institute related to the engineering chemistry course. There is a lot of improvement in the student-teacher interaction. And this is creating a platform wherein students are not only just learning the concepts, we give them a chance sometimes even to design the activities so they are able to question. It is not just we as teachers make the students learn the information. If we are able to teach our students to question, that itself drives our students towards applying, exploring, and evaluating. So they are solving the problems, they are answering the problems, they themselves are formulating the questions, they are entering into discussions. A lot of debating and brainstorming is taking place in the class. And when the student is able to do this, and he is very closely in contact with his peer mates rather than the teacher, wherein some of the students who really come from a rural background, they have inhibitions in talking to the teacher, but they're very comfortable with their peer mates. So it really develops a lot of positive attitude for them towards the subject, rather than because of their inhibition, sometimes they do come to a conclusion that, okay, this subject is not my plate of food. And during this particular activity, it has also been observed that maximum amount of learning is happening, which we have also seen in terms of Edgar Dale's cone, wherein reading, writing, and listening and learning by doing and activity-based learning, what would be the retention rates in the students? So maximum amount of learning is happening during this process of implementation of POGIL. So this is the thing which I wanted to share, which we as a team in VNRVJIET, all the chemistry faculty, we work together, we design the activities, we do give a chance for our students to design the activities, and we also help them to act as facilitators and implement in the class so that they also have the responsibility on their shoulders. And they do come out with a lot of creativity. And this activity not only enhances the thinking skills of the students, but it is also a platform wherein the teachers are learning. And teachers, everyday learners. So this is also a platform which gives you a chance to learn when you are interacting with so many students and when a debate or discussion is going on with so many students. So with this, I wind up my presentation, and if any questions are there, I would be very much willing to answer the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. We'll give the audience 1 or 2 minutes if they are typing their questions.
Yeah.
How can we create interest in a purely theoretical subject?
Yeah, Sridhar?
How can we create interest in a
I didn't
purely
get the question.
How can we create interest in a purely theoretical subject?
Yeah, this is been asked a number of times because usually what's happening, even our chemistry course, engineering chemistry course, is a lot of theory wherein we have to explain. But what we have done is, say for example, if I tell you with an example, it will be more easier. We are teaching something about lubricants for our mechanical students. But if I want them to learn what actually is the use of the lubricants and all that, instead of I'm putting down the slides and telling them what is the lubricant and what are the features and everything, we normally what we do is we show a video wherein the students are supposed to look at that video and identify what is the material which is being used for the running of the machinery over there. They themselves are coining the name lubricant, and in that video, when they go through the stages of that particular video, they are able to come down with what would be the features for a lubricant to work very properly. So we do have a lot of videos which we can download, or we can also prepare some
Hello.
show a video, whether you just want to give a diagram from which the student is able to get information. So we have really worked out, we do have theoretical concepts, and those theoretical concepts, we try to give them in this particular manner. Or you can also give it in the form of a multiple choice question, which drives them towards the concept. So this is how we have done.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. There seem to be no more questions. If there are any by email, I'll forward them to you.
No more questions. Thank you, Sridhar.
Thank
Can
you.
I log out?
Yes, ma'am. I'll close this.
Thank you.